So that was the opening of the piece from the Romantic Period by Albert Franz Doppler, and it was his Fantasy Pastorale Hongal. It is a beautiful piece that showcases the flute in the Romantic period, and many of the pieces in our repertoire were these really expressive, technically challenging pieces that showcase the entire range of our instrument and the entire range of emotions. And so in this piece, it goes through various themes and variations, and the flute is just soaring in these beautiful high octaves down to our lowest note with emotion filling up each note. So I want to skip ahead to another section of this piece that gives the playful character of this beautiful Hungarian piece that calls back the people who would have played this music, maybe on a violin or another folk instrument. And it's supposed to give the illusion of an improvised piece. You're just playing it from your heart, not reading ink on paper. But here is that second section. Such a delightful piece. So, what defines the Romantic period? So let's take a look at that period, which is 1830 to about 1900. Some give it that crossover to 1910, but we'll talk about what that period of defines in that musical period. So the dominating thought was emotions over reason, and there was expressive freedom. Expression was more important than the structure or the form. As I said before, program music would define the Romantic era themes like nature, legends, stories, the Greek mythological stories, nationalistic themes, and of course their passions and their innermost feelings would make their way from pen and paper to musicians and audiences. Now, the use of extreme dynamics, rubato, vibrato in the flute in your playing, and the rise of a virtuosic player. And that piece by Doppler is an example of the virtuosity of Romantic era music for flute. Now, because of an expanding sound in the orchestra, changes to the flute would be made, and this would greatly influence our repertoire, our performance practices, and the teaching methods that would come out of the Romantic era. The use of metal, such as silver, in this newly designed instrument would revolutionize flute playing. And we give the distinction of Theobald Boehm between 1832 to 1847 for making those significant changes in the design. The key placements, how we place our fingers, the body would become cylindrical from a conical design, and the head joint design would give the player more presence in those virtuosic pieces and in a large orchestra. The elegance of the flute would not be lost, but would be expanded in the Romantic period. So this outpouring of deep emotional, internal struggle highlighted the music of this era. Now, the human spirit, longing for that connection and searching and longing, would find its way into Romantic era music. Other pieces for flute, like the Reinecke Ballade, Reinecke Sonata. Fauré later would create this beautiful French style. Tchaikovsky, also a composer, would dominate in the Romantic era, and his symphonies would be some of the most beautiful in our repertoire. Now, there's a shift that we're going to make. Music of the church would also undergo a change, and there are going to be splits within denominations. In America, the church would begin to spread through revivals, and these revivals would, music of revivals would come out of that. Choral anthems in churches, shape note singing in very rural areas of America would dominate the music education for those rural areas. And there was a very new emerging interest in ancient plain song and chants, as well as a revival of the music of J.S. Bach, which was led by Felix Mendelssohn. Now, in the late 19th century, there was an invention that would revolutionize music for the future, and that was the invention of the phonograph by Thomas Edison. And you can imagine being the first person to record a piece on a phonograph and being able to hear that back. How amazing that must have been. Now, something revolutionary is happening in France at this time. And we're going to shift our focus to the French School of Flute. And that was the father of the French School of Flute, which is Paul Taffanel. Now, together with a French flute maker, Louis Lot, they paved the way for the modern flute and its repertoire. And that would influence an entire teaching method that is still used worldwide today. Now, at the core of Taffanel's method is this romantic idea of expression and emotion. The heart of each note must have a pure, round tone to create a beautiful, elegant sound, but to be mindful of the structure from your core and the breath that becomes the music. So, music, as said by Claude Debussy, is the space between the notes. And as flutists, we achieve this with our airstream. And this idea of singing through the notes, not just playing or placing our sound on top of the note, but you're singing and playing through the note. This was the foundation for the French School of Flute playing. Now, the first piece that I learned to play, first French piece, was by Fauré, the Morceau de Concours. And it was a piece that I was learning for a competition, and it has become one of my favorite in the repertoire. So I'd like to play that for you now. piece, I learned it so many years ago, and I still have the original notes from my teacher when I was learning this. So many breath marks and comments within the phrasing. Open up, don't slow down, don't push your sound, soft. And a couple of those remarks, I would definitely still take that to heart. But at the top here, bigger breaths, well, deeper breaths. I would edit some of these now. Support to the end of the phrase. I would edit that to say support past the phrase. If you're thinking the end of the phrase, you're gonna run out of air and your phrase will stop, but it needs to go beyond. The phrase doesn't just stop with the last note, it keeps going. So keep that in mind. More dynamic contrast, okay, more support, low notes, much more, hold back more rubato, smoothly, yes, smooth technique. So this is such a delightful little piece. So I want to switch gears now to a final thought about the Romantic period. One composer who was instrumental in leading the way for vocal music was Franz Schubert, and his songs, he wrote over 600. He really brought back the art song for vocalists. And the text for a piece I'm actually learning in my voice lessons, Du bist die Ruhe. It's beautiful, and here's the text, and I think it defines the romantic thought and that emotion, that outpouring of intense emotions. So this is the poem. You are rest, gentle peace, the longing, you and that which satisfies it. I consecrate to you, full of joy and sorrow, as a dwelling place here, my eyes and my heart. Come, commune with me, and close quietly behind you the gate. Drive other pain from this breast, full may this heart be of your joy. The temple of these eyes, from your radiance, alone brightens. Oh, fill it completely. How beautiful. And Schubert would go on to write a piano sonata that he would dedicate to Beethoven, and Beethoven revered Schubert as well. The Romantic Orchestra, if we find to bring this all together, the Romantic Orchestra brought us a vast, expanding repertoire. Technically challenging, definitely, but beautiful, soaring melodies and solos. And the professional flutist has an intense job. Any orchestral player, really, that plays from the Romantic repertoire, there is nothing quite like the sound of the orchestra. From delicate to bold, victorious to humble, love and heartbreak, the orchestra can paint a sound of a dark sky with shimmering stars and giant planets, to the grand peaks of the mountains with babbling brooks. And the colors of our sound, our flute playing, create that canvas, on that canvas, those pictures, and paint those melodies on a canvas. Now when you listen, all of these images are captured and for a moment held and suspended in this cathedral of music. Those moments of sacredness have the power to point us to our Creator if we allow it, if we allow our mind and our heart to open and align with what God is reaching out through music, through Jesus, to say, come to me, all who are weary, and I will give you rest. The human spirit has been searching through the centuries, and so the Romantics can teach us so much about that connection, and we are so desperate still to have that and to know it. So thank you for watching today. I'm going to post a few more videos. This is getting really long. More examples of Romantic music, and I hope you'll be able to watch those as well.